Welcome into the Next Up podcast. I'm your host, Adam Breneman. My guest today is one of the most important behind-the-scenes figures in modern college football, Andy Frank, the general manager of Penn State Football. He's helped build Penn State into a powerhouse in the NIL era. He's signed elite talent year after year, navigating the chaos of this new era of college football better than almost anyone in the country. If you want to understand how championship rosters get built today in the new landscape of college football, this is the guy to listen to. Here's Penn State GM, Andy Frank. Andy Frank is next up.
Andy, appreciate you doing this, man.
Appreciate having me.
Thanks for coming on. Excited to talk to you, GM at Penn State Football, just about there's so much that's going on in college football nowadays. And your position of general manager, I feel like you've been at Penn State as a general manager for a while, but this position has become really important in college football as revenue sharing, NIL, transfer portal, roster management, everything comes to fruition. But I want to start with your background at Princeton, engineering, not a traditional background for someone who's been in football for what? How long have you been in decades?
I started in 2005 as a GA.
Yeah, so how has that background helped you now in your role?
I think it's learning experiences. It's the education that you had growing up, whatever your background was. It's funny you say not typical for college football, but I think you'd be surprised how many different backgrounds there are.
Yeah.
There are the guys that get started right out of college going into coaching. There's a lot of other guys that start other places and do other things along the way. But it's helped, form your mind in terms of how you look at things.
Yeah.
I think today's world of college football is one that I enjoy because a lot of things I learned through college and then as an engineer kind of help prepare me for the numbers and kind of the way to analyze different things.
Yeah. I think for the people that maybe don't fully know what a general manager's role is in a college football program, maybe give us like your day-to-day of what you're dealing with. I know it's, you're dealing with the roster and the numbers and revenue sharing, I'm sure, as it's coming. But what's your typical week or day look like?
Yeah, I'd say every program probably structures it a little bit differently. We're a program that everybody is involved in a little bit of everything. It's definitely a team effort. For me, it's roster construction. It's how do we want to allocate numbers now with the financial piece of it? How do we want to allocate the financial aspects of things? And you're tied to so many different people and departments in the organization that you're working with all of the different people to try and figure out what is the best way. It's never one person's job. It's everybody's collective job to try and put it all together. I think we spend probably too much time maybe as a culture of thinking about, hey, who's the smartest guy in the room or who's the star, who's the genius. You put a collective group of people in the room should be smarter than whoever the smartest person is in the room. And I think that's kind of the goal, is to collect all of it together and hopefully make the best decisions from there.
Is your office like the one with the whiteboard that has like all the roster spots and constant the boards moving?
I try to stay on computer as much as possible.
You're a computer guy.
Try to
There's
keep
not traditional like magnets on
No,
the
we've done with magnets now for a few years. So I'm thankful for that because those are a bit of a pain to,
you have to make
get set
new
up.
ones.
They change every day. So.
You've been with Coach Franklin for a while. I mean, since you guys were at Vanderbilt together, and you've kind of gotten to be part of the two programs as they've risen, and you've seen it all now at Penn State. What's that relationship meant to you with Coach Franklin, and how you've kind of just been by his side as really his right-hand guy as he's ascended in college football and this program has ascended?
Yeah, it's been a great relationship. I think it's been good for me as far as growth in terms of the profession. Learned a lot from Coach, and hopefully I've provided a lot of things to him as well. I think it's good to have that experience because I think globally we look at things very similar. We're going to have disagreements along the way, and hopefully provide insight that way. But I kind of know what Coach is looking for, and we have new staff come in and say, hey, this might be a good idea, but this is how we're going to have to present it for Coach to kind of see it and see why it's a good idea.
Yeah.
I think that kind of helps in terms of having been around him for a long time. Us understanding each other, him knowing where I'm coming from when I've got an idea, and vice versa.
Yeah. With revenue sharing coming to college football pretty soon, I mean, so many court things happening. I can't keep up with it, but it sounds like it's happening. And how are you preparing for that to come? I know there's you're going to have a salary cap now, and it's going to be more like the NFL than anything. And you have to decide how are you going to manage that money with your team. How have you and coach together kind of prepared for that to come to fruition?
Because it's something that is coming and not here right now. It's interesting because I don't think we know exactly what it's going to look like in terms of these are the exact rules. You wish you knew this was the game that you're playing. So right now you're putting together several different contingencies. Hey, if there's a salary cap and it functions this way, this is how we're going to operate. If there's a version of the salary cap and it's gets litigated and maybe it's not quite as fully stringent on this is the cap, this is how we're going to operate. And you have to function in today's world planning as if both could potentially be possible and try to make sure you stay within the limits of where you think it could be, while at the same time trying to stretch those limits in case there is more resources available.
Have you had to have conversations with general managers, maybe even like in the NFL, and get advice from people, or just hear how other organizations are doing it?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of idea sharing right now. Obviously, it's a very competitive sport and industry, so there's a limit to what that idea sharing is. But we've gone around to different NFL teams this season. During the season, kind of went around and visited with a number of different teams. Have a group of guys in the industry that kind of are in similar roles that talk to a lot about, hey, how are you handling this situation? How are you handling that situation? Obviously, you're not giving away top secret stuff, but at the same time, it's good to understand, hey, this is the way that they're looking at this situation, and maybe we're looking at it a little bit differently, and you can kind of learn from each other that way.
I remember, I don't know where I saw it, where I heard it, but someone in this program when I was here, maybe it was a sign on the wall, used to say, "We're not just acquiring talent; we're building a team." I think that was you guys.
That's in the old staff room.
Yeah. So, and I always thought about that, and then thought about what it means from like an evaluation standpoint for you guys, and how you're evaluating players, and how it's not always just about skill and length and speed. It's about a lot of other things too. What's that evaluation process like for you and your recruiting staff when you're looking for players that fit the mold here at Penn State?
Yep. I'll take it even a step further. Not only are you building a team, you're building a program.
Yeah.
And so in today's world, you could look at it from the standpoint of, hey, we're just building a team for this coming year. And you could make some decisions that might hurt yourself down the line. I think it's important to kind of look at it holistically and say, hey, we are building a team for this year, but we're also trying to make sure that we continue things going into the future. In terms of what we're looking for someone who has everything. Now, with that said, you want tall, long, fast, physical, great football character, great personal character, great family support system around them. But the reality is, God didn't give everybody everything. And so you're trying to figure out within that, what are the things that will work within our program that we can maybe this area, he doesn't have to fit exactly the way we want, but he's got enough of these other things to make it work. Speed obviously is a starting point from a physical standpoint, but long and physical, guys that love football, and it's probably more important than ever that guys love football, that it's important to them. And in that, also for us here at Penn State, that they're searching for success in everything. Because if it's just purely about football, it's probably not the place for them, because we're going to have expectations for them in the classroom. We're going to have expectations for them in the community that if they just want to do it on the football field, it's probably not going to work so well.
Well, one of the toughest parts of your job, I think, is as you're constructing the roster, deciding between the short-term wins of maybe, as you mentioned, like transfer portal. Maybe it makes our team better this year, but is it the best thing for the long term of the program? You get the high school versus portal debate. How many scholarship spots do you going to give to these fifth-year seniors versus bringing in a bunch of high school guys? And we've seen programs manage it differently. How have you balanced that with building to win this season, but also building to win in 4 years?
Yeah, so I mean, ultimately, we see ourselves as a developmental program where we're going to do the vast majority of our recruiting out of high school, and we're going to help those kids develop into the best players they can be. I think that actually also fits with winning at the very highest level. If you look at it across the country, we're starting to see some results of the portal, not fully, but some results. It's, I think, very difficult to build a championship team if you're slanted heavy portal, just because the first chance of getting the players in is coming out of high school.
Yeah.
And so if you get the best players in out of high school, they're having success, they're happy where they're at, they're not going somewhere else. So the pool of great talent is better coming out of high school.
Yeah.
So we're looking to do that. I think we've always had a blend of, even pre-portal era, where we're going to take some guys out of high school that we think are in year one or maybe year two are going to play and help us. And we're going to take some other guys that they might not help us until year three, and in some cases year four. We're trying to do it in all of the different phases. And with the transfer portal right now, we've actually had a lot of success in the portal. It's just not big numbers. It's what we've tried to do is identify areas that we may have a weakness, and some of those weaknesses could be, hey, there's an actual hole here. Or the other weakness could be, hey, we've got a depth problem that's brewing in 2 years. Davian Collins is an example. Took him a couple of years ago, and it was, hey, we saw that, hey, down the road we may have ourselves a depth problem. Let's get him here. Played a little bit, when he first got here, played even more last year, and he's gonna have a huge role for us this year. So it's figuring out what is the role of the transfer player, and then making sure that you're taking guys that are gonna help that team that year, and then also, if they're around past that, continue to help the program.
Are there any non-negotiables you guys have for taking players? Either we won't take them if this is the case, or we need to have this?
Real quick, guys, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor on this podcast, Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best way to fire on sports. I've tried all the different apps, sports books, daily fantasy. Prize Picks is the way. On Prize Picks, you're picking players instead of teams. So if you know sports like I do, you can make a bunch of money, especially with the free $50 bonus. So code NEXTUP or the link in my description. All you gotta do is deposit $5. You get a free $50 in your account that you can use, go 10x, 100x, turn it into whatever you want. Code NEXTUP, $50 bonus, link in description. Let's go.
Are there any non-negotiables you guys have for taking players? Either we won't take them if this is the case, or we need to have this?
I wouldn't go as far as non-negotiables.
Hard to negotiate?
Yeah. There are things that matter more or less for us. I think we try to be holistic in the approach and have the conversation on each and every kid, and it's an individual conversation, but we're trying to learn from all of our past experiences. What we found from a portal standpoint, for the most part, and again, not 100%, but we're going to recruit kids that we probably know coming out of high school, that we recruited out of high school, we've got relationships with. We're a very relationship-based program. So the kids that have the best success here are kids that, believe in the staff, have seen what the staff can do for them. And so that's, I think, really helped us in the portal. The other aspect of the portal is we've done pretty well as grad transfers, guys that have kind of been through it, have kind of shown that they can accomplish things. And then guys that are kind of making their way up the food chain, guys that are coming from maybe a little bit lower levels that have outperformed where they were at, and they get here and the stage isn't too big for them, but this is a new experience that they're looking forward to. I think when we started in the portal, I think there was always a concern of culturally what it might do to your locker room. And I think as long as you're always looking for the team's health and then the long-term health of the program, the portal guys have actually been great for our culture because we've brought in new perspectives, guys that maybe weren't as happy at other places that came here like, hey guys, we got pretty good. Or guys that were at, a little bit lower level, didn't have the resources, and like, look around, hey, we got everything we need here to be successful at the highest level.
How have you structured your personnel department, given that you're recruiting really all these different buckets of areas? You have the high school, you have still JUCO, and you have college, you have, Power 4 college, Group of 5, FCS, D2, like all these players you have to scout constantly, because then when the portal opens up, you got to move, right? Like you don't have time to really not know anything about the player if you're going to go after them. So how have you guys structured that from a personnel department standpoint?
Yeah, there's been an evolution. I think there will continue to be an evolution across the country and here at Penn State as well. We've very much, from a recruiting staff standpoint, we've got, folks that help with the operation and kind of planning of visits and do a great job. We've got the graphics people and design people. Then the other group is, evaluators of talent and then also recruiters. We've kept that group together as far as the people that evaluate the players and the recruiting staff are also the ones that are heavily involved in recruiting. Right now we're structured where we've got some people that focus a little bit more on the transfer portal than on the high school, but everybody is involved in it in terms of the recruiting staff, but then also to the coaches. We're all involved in the high school side and in the college side. I think as time goes on, there may be a little bit more of a separation of that. We'll see where that goes to, and see how the market kind of dictates how we handle it.
Is that part of the everyone better be recruiting mindset of if they're on the payroll, they better be recruiting?
Absolutely.
Yeah. How do you manage all the sheer amount of relationships that you have to at your position? You have head coach, assistant coaches, players, agents now, administrators, all these different people that you're having to balance and manage relationships with all the time.
Yeah, it's an interesting balance that the number of people you have to deal with and interact with has gone up over the course of time. As staff sizes have gotten bigger, that's more personalities on staff. That's more people that are involved in things. I really like the way that we're structured in the sense that you've always had a position coach. Well, we're kind of structured in recruiting teams by position and then also by the areas that those coaches recruit. And so there's 2 to 3 to 5 people per position that kind of handle the recruitment at that position. So that does divide up a little bit of hey, not one person is responsible for talking to everybody across the board. And it kind of gives some ownership to, the different groups along the way to, take that ownership and really kind of dig into those recruits and kind of give more attention. I think the other part with staff is we all perceive things differently. And so there's a lot of translation in terms of you may have a conversation with one staff member that is a totally different conversation about the same topic as you do with another staff member, and being able to figure out how do you reach everybody. I think that's because what I think or what I believe or what anybody thinks or they believe, at the end of the day, doesn't matter unless you can convince the group to also agree with it so that the decision makers at the end, hey, let's go this direction.
It's interesting. You mentioned the area recruiting versus position. I was going to ask you that about how you've decided and what your belief is about how you structure who recruits who, because I feel like that's evolved a little bit to, there's some programs that still do area recruiting. I know programs who only do position-based and no one really has an area. And it seems like you've kind of been a blend of both.
Yeah, we're definitely a blend of both. We want to recruit nationally. We want to recruit the best players from across the country, but this region matters a lot to us. The state of Pennsylvania, this Northeast region, there's a lot of good football players in this region. And so from an area perspective, we try to cover this region as best we can with a coach that can go on the road. You've got, 10 assistant coaches and you've got, a head coach that can go on the road. So those 10 assistant coaches, will have areas that they get to know the high school coach. They get to know the area. They can call high school coach at one school and ask about, somebody at another school and get good information. And that information matters. Maybe more now than it ever has. It allows you to, I think, be on guys earlier. It also, when you now balance it with the position recruiting, it allows you to have more people recruiting that player so that there's going to be staff turnover. And when one person leaves the staff, a recruit doesn't feel like, hey, the one guy that I was talking to at Penn State is no longer there. It's not the same place. Well, for our recruits, they might have a hard time telling you who their primary recruiter is. These 5 guys, and I talk to Coach Franklin all the time, I talk to the coordinators, and so that's our goal in terms of that balance of positional and area. The other part about area that I think gets lost a little bit is if an area coach goes to the city, wherever they recruit, they can go see all the players at every position, have a relationship with them. In terms of the way resources are, days on the road are valuable. So if you go into an area and that one person can see all the positions, that's only one day on the road. Whereas if you send a position coach, you may have to send 5 position coaches to that area. That's 5 days on the road you just used that you could have got done with one area day.
What's a part of your role as GM that fans may not know or realize?
Ooh, good question.
Probably a lot.
There's a lot. For me, and I think the way that we're structured, a lot of it's behind the scenes stuff. It's kind of the organization of the roster. It's trying to figure out every year, hey, how many guys are we going to take per position? Trying to make sure that the staff, you may set let's say a number at a position for each year, but then pushing the staff to say, Well, if you're the running backs coach and you're taking 2 running backs, well, go convince us to take 3, and trying to make sure everybody on the staff understands how coach and kind of how our system is set up and how we want new staff members to come in here and kind of function and try and move the program forward.
Yeah. I'm sure you get a lot of the people lobbying for more spots in their position room, right?
Yeah, we do.
We need 3 running backs.
Yeah, our guys are pretty good. And I think the other part too, because we are flexible, I know there probably are some programs that, hey, this is your number for this is what you're taking. You've got to figure out, how that works. If you bring good players to the table and they want to commit to us, we're going to do our best not to turn down guys that we think can help us win, even if it makes maybe we are over at that position for the year. We'll figure it out somewhere else, and that might be a tough pill to swallow for somebody else because it may come from somewhere else. But ultimately, it's about the team. It's about the overall program, and it's not just about one position. And we've been very fortunate in our time. I think this is a culture that coaches set that it isn't just about one person or just about one position. At the end of the day, it's about all of our success, and we're all in it together.
Yeah, it's probably the opposite too of just because you say you're taking 4 tackles doesn't mean, they're ready to be 4 good ones that we can take, right? We're not just taking 4 to take 4, right?
Absolutely.
So probably the exact opposite too. Is there a success story, whether it be high school player, transfer portal, that has really stuck with you? That where maybe you guys found a guy who was a tough evaluation, ended up being really good. Anyone that sticks to mind that?
Shoot, we've had a bunch.
So many, right?
Yeah, there's so many, and there's so many different reasons for it. I'd hesitate to say this is the one, but I think that there's the guys I kind of mentioned earlier a little bit. There's guys that hit right away, and those are probably the easier ones to hit on because it was probably obvious as a high school kid that they're probably going to hit pretty early. And then there's the guys that everybody's path is a little bit different. We've got guys in the NFL that were walk-ons.
Yeah.
We've got a guy in the NFL right now that never started here. We've had former guys in the NFL that didn't start to their last year here.
Yeah.
And all of those things, they're fun to see because the guys that do stick it out here and kind of believe in the process and the development here, we've had a lot of success with those players, from the developmental guys to the play early guys in both categories.
Yeah. Last question for you, Andy. Appreciate your time. What's from a roster standpoint, the things that you're thinking about every day, what are the 1 or 2 things that you think still need to happen in order to, reach that pinnacle of college football?
Yeah. It's little pieces. It's little pieces everywhere. For us right now, we think we got a really good roster coming back next season. We will look to supplement a little piece here. It might be a piece that it goes unnoticed, but it's that piece that could be the difference in one game that makes a difference in the season. I think that there's positions that we're probably looking at a little bit more than others, both at the top end of, hey, we got to find a starter, but then also other positions where we got to find that depth guy for that moment in time. And it may be that moment to allow somebody else to develop. It may be that moment where we have an injury, all of those different things. But we're really trying to do it across the entire board and not have it be, a one-piece situation.
Yeah, awesome. Appreciate your time, man. This is awesome. I think the fans will enjoy it.
All right, appreciate you having me.
Thanks, man.
Next up.